Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion. Of course, it's Friday, October 24th, 2025. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino, CDM number 9. First of all, we start off with the latest data from Johns Hopkins in terms of our viruses and whatnot that's floating around, especially as we have all the kids in school and they bring home all sorts of things. The good news is that COVID is falling off a cliff. That's great news. The flu and other viruses are kind of hanging around as they typically do for this time of year. But the great news is that COVID is falling off, which is really nice to see. Certainly some good news. But now, let's get to the weather. Of course, all focus and a lot of drama on social media is about Tropical Storm Melissa. Melissa has winds of 45 miles per hour, so it's not a very strong tropical storm right now. It's practically stationary as it's reorganizing, and it's expected to basically drift right around Jamaica and gradually intensify to the point that it's a major hurricane. Now, there is some debate, at least for me, about the reality of this becoming a major hurricane. So let me give you the reasons why, okay? As this thing is festering around, it's going to be feeding off a lot of warm water. I mean, we're talking about 80 plus degree type water here, over 30 degrees Celsius. Very, very impressive, very, very steamy water. So we got that. It's hot water, right? Meanwhile, shear is impacting the general evolution of this storm. In fact, here, let me put on the water vapor satellite picture, just kind of make my point here even better, right? This storm, while it's festering around, is being impacted by shear. So the circulation, low-level circulation is here. There's a lot of strong convection. Very impressive. When you start getting these blacks and whites here, that means that the cloud tops are very high in the atmosphere. Very strong lifting, right? But when you're dealing with tropical systems, you want it to be vertically stacked, right? So you have this circulation that goes like this, right? So if you have any type of skewing left or right, it screws with the circulation, right? It impacts it. So what's happening here is that you have a low-level circulation trying to reorganize here. You have the mid-level circulation here, the upper-level circulation here. That is not a good recipe for an intensifying hurricane or tropical storm or any type of tropical low. So as a result, right now, it's just kind of festering around. The idea is that the shear is going to subside. My concern and some of my doubt is that, hey, there is an awful lot of dry air trying to seep in here. And if that dry air seeps into this tropical system, we may be dealing with busted forecast, maybe. I don't know. But look, the fact of the matter is that if the shear drops and it's feeding off all of this warm water, yes, it has a good chance here of intensifying rapidly. So then the next question is okay, so let's just say it does intensify. Where does it go? Because I know that there's some people running around sharing 1 or 2 miles that show the worst case scenario. So I'm going to put an end to that debate. So first of all, here's our low-level circulation. You can see it's just kind of a mess here. Typically, you have one circulation. It's just kind of wrapping around, getting stronger and stronger. This thing is just kind of pulled like taffy all over the place. So, yeah, it has some work to do to get better organized. But one thing I can say about tropical systems is that once it locks in, it kind of goes basically a Super Saiyan. It just goes, it locks in and boom, right? So that can definitely happen. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying that there are a lot of factors here that it has to overcome before doing so. So we'll see what happens through this weekend. Now, what about the idea of this invading our neck of the woods? Okay, and why am I going to put a kibosh to that idea? Okay, so notice again, we have clearly dry air here, nice trough digging in here, and there is our tropical system lifting up through Cuba. Now, there's some who will make a big deal about this inching left in a little bit or a trend. I'm going to put it really simple. wrong trough axis. Okay, and some people brought up Sandy 2.0. It's the wrong trough axis. All right, so here's the thing, right? When Sandy, which I lived through and I forecasted for, so I would know, the upper level low was here, and it was a negative tilt. Okay, this is a neutral tilt. Okay, why is that important? Okay, so and you can even make an argument for a positive tilt up here. The reason why that's important is the orientation of the winds in the upper levels, okay? With Sandy, the winds were coming in like this, okay? You had the upper level low, you had a nice block up here, you had an upper level low here, and you had all your steering currents going like that. So you could literally see the track where it was going to go and how Sandy was going to get sucked in, right? In this scenario, there's nothing like that. Just because you have a tropical system in the Caribbean lifting northward does not mean it's Sandy-like. When it's Sandy-like, trust me, I will tell you because I will be very much concerned because I live in New Jersey. So I'd be very much concerned about that. But one of the key factors is that this upper level low is way up here. Sandy's upper level low is way down here. That's a pretty big difference. So, as a result, we get a nice southwesterly steering current that takes whatever is festering up down here, whether it becomes a major hurricane or not, and kicks it right out into the Atlantic. It can't curve back. Now, there are some people who have misunderstood the idea of this phasing. It's not phasing. What happens is that as this lifts northward, it interacts with the polar jet stream, transitions into an extratropical storm, becomes absorbed. Okay, absorbed means that the structure of the original system, tropical system, collapses and it basically gets absorbed into the larger system that is the polar trough. So that is essentially what happens. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, I'm sure you noticed there is an awful lot of things going on around the mid-Atlantic. So let's see what is setting up here, right? So first of all, understand that we are in a neutral, very extremely super weak La Nina state, right? And for the first time in months, the SOI has pushed over 5 and has reached 7.35 in the monthly values. The seasonal values are still below 5. So 5 is kind of like my breaking point for La Nina influence, okay? Then the daily contributions, this is all super positive. So why is this all strongly positive? Well, you can thank the MJO. It's moving into phase 3, it's going 4, and then it's going to try to drive into 7. Some model guidance takes it well into 7. Others, like the European, is a little bit weaker. You have some AI guidance going somewhere in between. So we get the idea here that, at least for this time period, phase 3, 4, and 5 are favorable for more La Nina-like conditions, which would explain the enhancement in the SOI. Once it goes into these phases here, you're going to see a negative phase, right? And that typically leads to a falling of the SOI and possibly weakening of the La Nina, which is already pretty weak. So we have all that going for us, right now. Meanwhile, we have very warm Pacific, nice little triple pole right here in the Atlantic. So that sets up our sea surface temperatures. And we have stratospheric areas of stratospheric warming pockets setting up over the northern Atlantic. The northern Pacific is kind of pulsing a bit around Eurasia, where we have our polar vortex. So this is setting up a pattern where we're getting some pretty good instability in the atmosphere, blocking. And our NAO is going from negative to slightly positive, positive down to negative, okay, right before Halloween. Keep an eye on this, right? So this would set up some more high latitude blocking, and then we go negative again. So this sign right here tells me it's going to get a bit active around here, okay? It's going to be a little bit more stormy. So we have La Nina-esque like conditions, which would support more of a type of a Miller B type storm track if you start getting some high latitude blocking setting up, which we have right here. And so definitely an active weather pattern. It doesn't remove the tropical aspect of it because it's not going to be a factor. However, I will say that as the storm lifts northward, it will help to enhance this whole evolution, right? So this is why we're seeing this negative component. So as that is evolving here, our 500 millibar pattern is such that it gets a bit blocky. And so because you get a bit more blocky, your short waves get to slow down, right? Whereas last winter, they were kind of like on the Autobahn, just racing through, flying through. So it was hard to get phasing to interacting. It was hard to pull off a lot of winter storm. But when they did, they produced, right? But in this scenario, everything slows down. And so you get more interaction. So you're seeing a better potential for some storm potential here and a active weather pattern through at least the early start of November. Again, we don't want to go into details 10 to 15 days out. We're not going to be irresponsible like that, but let's focus on what we can focus on. We know we have some interaction in polar air, right? So very weak in connection here. It's more Pacific than anything else, but we do have some interaction of some polar air to work with in this scenario. And there's our storm signal right there. And by the way, when you see this storm signal showing up here, this is clearly cold core. So don't let anyone spook you, okay? This is clearly a cold core scenario, but I'm very interested to see that cold air kind of sneak in there, right? So let's zoom in and let's get into the observations right now. Along the coast, quiet. A little frosty out there too, especially around Freehold. We have some frost mornings. It's pretty chilly. We have temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 30s over your higher elevations, upper 30s to lower 40s in your suburbs, supporting your frost, lower to mid 40s around Philadelphia, mid 40s around New York City. Again, you can see where you get away from the urban areas, temperatures plummeted, and where you got influence from the water and where you're in urban areas, well, it stayed much warmer. So, take a look at our latest radar and surface map. We got some cloud cover overlaid. We'll hit play, and you can see not much going on. We're going to have these troughs marching their way through the region, and that is going to open up the potential here. Let me take the overlay off for the satellite. Again, you can see these little troughs marching their way through. That's going to open up the potential here for a few isolated showers today, but very, very weak. We're talking about less than 1/100 of an inch precipitation. So we're not talking about much. Mostly a mix of sun and clouds around the region. You can see on our infrared satellite picture, not a lot going on. Looks like setting up a quiet weekend. Trouble is brewing, though, here in the subtropical jet stream, and the polar jet stream's getting ready to play games, too. And you can see that very nicely in the water vapor satellite picture. Polar jet stream dominating huge upper level low over our neck of the woods, setting these short waves through. Subtropical jet stream saying, hey, I want to play too. It starts to march in towards this upper level low. And look, we have another disturbance here that's diving down and getting ready to meet it. So a big old play date. Meanwhile, here is our tropical mess with the sheared system expected to gradually become better organized. And if it does, it will lock in and rapidly intensify. If this dry air or shear gets in, well, there's going to be some busted forecasts. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But in the meantime, again, notice the component here over the Western Atlantic, southwest. So there we go. And there's our moisture stream to prove it if you want to track it right there. So that's all set up. Now, let's take a look at where we are in the model guidance here. Here we have the 500 millibar PVA. And you can see for this time period here through the weekend, we're getting this confluence between the polar jet stream and subtropical jet stream, which sets up high pressure for us and beautiful weather conditions, a little cool for this weekend. Then we get to next week, right before Halloween. A little spooky here, a little bit of a gremlin here developing right around Wednesday evening into Thursday. What we're seeing here, again, the whole pattern slows down. We get this interaction. Again, Melissa has no factor here. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch. Except for the fact that, hey, look at those southwesterly winds. I wonder where it'll go. That way. So, while that is all evolving here, you get this new upper level low take shape and nice lifting, right? And you can see the back end. You can see a nice setup for the precipitation shield. Old upper level low, new upper level low. And that takes shape and it kicks out just in time. By the time we get ready for Halloween, we get a nice little shortwave ridge, which means the ghouls and ghosts will be able to go out there without any type of rain. A little breezy, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue for them. I want to do the 500 millibar vertical velocity. And this kind of shows, again, strong lifting in the atmosphere, rising motion in the atmosphere. We also see that 700 millibars, nice rising in the atmosphere. So this is all coming together pretty nicely. We've seen this in several runs now. We'll probably see some tweaks to this forecast as we get closer, which we naturally do. But you get the idea here. You get a nice little Miller set up here with a little bit of cold air. Let me pull that up right here. So again, this is not a warm system. You have 850 millibar temperatures between 2 degrees Celsius on the coast and minus 1 degree Celsius over the interior. So what that tells me is that, hey, we might actually get a little bit of snow mixed in here for the highest elevations, Poconos, Catskills, those locations up where like the goats are, the billy goats, all that stuff. That is where we could see some snow, first season snow. So we're going to be watching out for that very nicely. So also, I just want to also point this out too. Precipitant water values for this type of air mass is pretty loaded, and that's going to support the potential here for some heavier rainfall. Again, we'll get more details next week as we get a little bit closer in handling this storm and break down all the factors of timing and all that good stuff. So with that said, let's dive to the forecast for today. Mix of sun clouds, could be an isolated shower or two, a bit chilly. High temperatures in the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior. Mid 50s to lower 60s on the I-95 corridor, mid to upper 50s along the coast. Those 60s are closer towards like the Philadelphia metro. For tonight into tomorrow morning, clear skies. It's going to be chilly. Low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s in your suburbs, lower to mid 40s in your urban areas. Tomorrow afternoon, look for scattered clouds. Temperatures in the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, mid to upper 50s along the coast, upper 50s to lower 60s along the I-95 corridor. On Sunday, rinse and repeat. High pressure generally in control. We got a weak trough passing through. I don't expect any precipitation, but generally a mix of sun and clouds. Look for low temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast, and high temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, upper 50s to lower 60s along the I-95 corridor, and mid 50s along the coast. On Monday, high pressure in complete control, tranquil conditions, more of a northeasterly wind. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s in your suburbs, mid 40s along the coast. High temperatures will rebound into the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, mid to upper 50s along the coast. On Tuesday, high pressure begins to give way as trouble is brewing to our south. Clouds will increase, showers will begin to develop towards the evening hours. Look for low temperatures in the mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s in your suburbs, mid to upper 40s in your urban areas. High temperatures will range from the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s along the coast. Tuesday night into Wednesday, our low pressure system starts to head towards our region. Rainfall looks like it's focused mostly on the coast, but some showers pushing into the interior as well. Look for low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, mid 40s along the coast. On Wednesday afternoon, the low pressure system lifts up into our coastal waters, periods of rain along the coast, and some signs right here just starting to get a little bit of mix as we head towards the evening hours, as that colder air it starts to influence the storm. So Poconos, Catskills, you start to see a few snowflakes floating around with rain along the coast and just a wet, windy, raw day on Wednesday. Look for high temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, mid to upper 40s along the coast. Again, temperatures don't move all that much. Onto Wednesday night into Thursday morning, our low pressure system lifts northward. Again, watch out for some higher elevation snowfall. Don't know how much yet, but certainly some snowflakes in the air. Meanwhile, showers lingering around the coast. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the higher elevations, upper 30s to lower 40s over the rest of the interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast. High temperatures on Thursday as our low pressure system lifts away with variable cloud cover and a few lingering scattered showers around the area. Mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. And for Halloween, the ghouls and ghosts out there will have a little breezy conditions, but dry, with scattered clouds. Temperatures will range from the mid-30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast, and high temperatures in the afternoon when you're out there getting your Kit Kats and all the other good chocolate out there. We always give away full bars. True. Temperatures will range from the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s along the coast. That is your forecast discussion for today. Remember, we have our winter forecast issued for the public this Monday, so get ready for that. And in the meantime, stay safe out there. Hi everyone, it's meteorologist Stephen DiMartino, CDM number 9. Winter is coming, and I want you to stay informed, not anxious. Here's how I do that. By sharing early forecasts, real-time storm analysis, and clear explanations. If you want to stay ahead this season, visit NYNJPA Weather. No hype, no issues, just the facts. And as always, stay safe out there.